My name's Jake Morrison. And I've lived my whole life on the 47-acre ranch my grandfather carved out of Colorado wilderness back in 1967. He built every inch of it. The cedar fencing, the barn, the gravel drive leading to our porch. It's not just land. It's blood, sweat, and legacy. 2 years ago, cancer took my wife and Sarah, leaving me and my 16-year-old daughter Emma to run our herd of 30 cattle and keep the Morrison name alive. Everything stayed peaceful until 3 years ago, when developers rolled in and threw up the frail Maplewood Heights subdivision next door. Within months, the new neighbors crowned themselves rulers of their tiny empire, the Homeowners Association. Led by Karen Whitfield, a retired city planner with too much free time and too much ego. Karen made it her personal mission to make my life miserable. She complained my cattle smelled, claimed my fence encroached on her land, and even argued that my gravel road ruined her subdivision's aesthetic. Every month, a new notice. Every week, another empty threat. Then last week, my world turned upside down. My father died suddenly of a heart attack in Montana. I dropped everything, drove north, and began arranging his funeral. While I was gone, my neighbor Bill Hendricks, a retired county surveyor, agreed to check on the ranch. Emma stayed with her friend's family. But on Thursday night, just after the funeral, I got a text from Emma that froze my blood. "Dad, you need to come home. Something's happening at the ranch." I drove through the night, pulling into the ranch just after 6 a.m., exhausted, grief-stricken, and furious. Because there it was, a massive "for auction" sign planted square in my yard. 2 men in pressed suits were pacing my land, measuring my fence line like they owned it. I walked up, boots crunching on gravel my grandfather laid half a century ago. "Morning. What exactly are you doing on my property?" The taller man didn't even look up. "Sir, this property is scheduled for auction Saturday. We're performing a pre-sale assessment." My jaw tightened. "You're trespassing on my ranch." The shorter one smirked. "We have legal authorization. Please don't interfere." Before I could call the sheriff, the tall man made a call of his own. "Yeah, we've got a situation. Homeowners being uncooperative." Moments later, a white Mercedes tore up the driveway. Out stepped Karen Whitfield, heels crunching on gravel like she was walking into a courtroom she already owned. "Mr. Morrison," she said sweetly, "you're in violation of a court order. These men are here legally." "What court order?" I demanded. Karen didn't answer. Instead, she dialed and joined one. "Yes, I'd like to report a trespasser threatening authorized personnel." 20 minutes later, Deputy Maria Santos arrived, a good woman I knew from the local school. She looked bewildered when she saw me standing on my own porch. Karen launched into her act, waving a folder thick with official-looking papers. The top page read, "Notice of Property Forfeiture, Maplewood Heights Community Authority." Apparently, I owed $47,000 in HOA fines for alleged violations, a fence, odor complaints, and an unauthorized road. I couldn't believe it. "Maria, I never joined their HOA. This ranch predates their subdivision by 50 years. Karen just smiled. "Ignorance of community covenants isn't a defense. You were notified." Deputy Santos looked over my deed and tax records. "Karen, county records list this property as independent. The HOA doesn't have jurisdiction." Karen crossed her arms. "He abandoned the disputed land through encroachment." I pointed at the auction sign. "That sign is 2 feet inside my fence line. Remove it or I will." "Touch it and you'll be arrested," Karen snapped. My lawyer was out of town. Every other attorney booked solid. The timing was too perfect, like they'd planned it around my father's death. Then Bill Hendricks pulled up. He'd been a licensed county surveyor for 40 years. "Karen, I've lived here decades," he said flatly. "That fence hasn't moved an inch since 1967. Deputy Santos confirmed the law. Adverse possession in Colorado takes 18 years. The fence predates your HOA by half a century. Karen's jaw tightened. "We'll see what the board decides." That afternoon, she held an emergency HOA board meeting. Uninvited. I showed up anyway. Inside her modern living room sat the so-called board. Karen, Dr. Stanton, vice president and her business partner, Jennifer Walsh, her employee, Marcus Chen, treasurer, and Patricia Vance, the only one with a conscience. I laid out my proof. Deed, tax receipts, the original 1967 survey. Karen dismissed it. "Those are outdated. The 2022 survey shows encroachment." "Done by who?" I asked. Mountain West Land Services, she replied. I never hired them. When I demanded to speak with the surveyor, Karen waved it off. The certification is valid. Bill vouched that he'd seen no surveyors anywhere near my fence. When the vote came, Karen, Stanton, and Walsh voted to proceed with the auction. Marcus abstained. Patricia voted no. The motion passed. 3-1-1. They planned to sell my legacy that Saturday. By Sunday, Karen was giving Washu pre-auction tours to potential buyers, walking them around my land, advertising development opportunities. I sat on my porch drinking coffee, greeting each guest personally. Hi, I'm Jake Morrison, the actual owner. You're standing on stolen land. 2 left immediately. The third, a real estate investor, started questioning Karen about title insurance and permits. She fumbled for answers. Across the street, my young neighbor, Tommy Martinez, who runs a YouTube channel called Rural Real Talk, filmed the entire thing. By that evening, his livestream titled HOA Tries to Steal Local Ranch had drawn nearly 1,000 viewers, flooding the comments with outrage. By Monday night, Channel 9 News picked it up. Colorado HOA land seizure sparks outrage. While media attention exploded, Emma dug into the legal side. She discovered that no auction permit had ever been filed, a clear violation of Jaguar state law, requiring a 30-day advance permit and proof of ownership. The county clerk confirmed it. They can't legally auction that property, Mr. Morrison. Karen, however, doubled down. She hired a private security company to maintain order on auction day. Armed guards, barriers, the works. Meanwhile, neighborhood chat groups erupted into chaos. Half the residents siding with me, the others clinging to Karen's delusion of authority. Several neighbors even confessed they'd been bullied by her too. That's when I got the call that changed everything. Attorney Sarah Chin, a property rights specialist, agreed to meet me Wednesday morning. After reviewing the HOA's documents, she said flatly, Jake, this HOA has zero jurisdiction over your land. She pulled out the original 2019 subdivision plat. It clearly excluded my ranch from HOA boundaries. The developer's notes even read, Morrison Ranch property retains full autonomy. But Karen had forged an amended covenant extension in 2021, claiming I'd signed consent for inclusion. That document was never approved by the county, and never signed by me. This is fraud, Sarah said. She illegally extended HOA control. Digging deeper, she found emails from the developer to the county confirming that my ranch must remain independent. Then came the smoking gun. She called Robert Kumar, the surveyor whose name appeared on the 2022 report. Kumar's response chilled us both. I never did that survey, he said. That's a forged signature. Someone's using my name. Sarah put her pen down. Jake, we're no longer talking about an HOA dispute. This is criminal fraud, forgery, and attempted property theft. What began as a quiet morning returning from my father's funeral had turned into something much bigger. A fight not just for land, but for legacy, truth, and justice. The air outside Sarah Chin's law office was cold and sharp, carrying that dry Colorado wind that always smelled faintly of sage and dust. I stepped out onto the sidewalk, heart pounding with a strange mix of relief and fury. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't crazy. I was right. Karen hadn't just overstepped her authority. She'd forged documents, falsified surveys, and attempted grand theft of my family's legacy. Sarah followed me out, holding a stack of papers tight against her chest. Jake, she said, I've seen HOA corruption before, but never anything this deliberate. We're going to shut this down. How? I asked. The auction's in 3 days. They've already got security and buyers lined up. Her eyes glinted like tempered steel. Then, we make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of scam she's running before she gets the chance. Wednesday night, the calm. Before the fire. That night, Emma and I sat at the kitchen table, the old wood scarred with decades of coffee mugs and tool scratches. She was scrolling through social media while I scanned documents Sarah had emailed me. Dad, you're trending, she said suddenly, showing me her phone. Tommy's video had exploded, nearly 400,000 views in less than 2 days. People were furious, not just in Colorado, but across the country. Hashtags like Trick Save the Ranch and Stop Ho Fraud were spreading like wildfire. Comments flooded in. Fight back, Jake. Karen Whitfield deserves prison time. This is why people hate HOAs. But not everyone was supportive. The Maplewood Heights page was full of posts defending Karen, claiming I was a disgruntled loner, or making things up for attention. Someone even posted drone footage of my property, captioned, "See the illegal fence line." Emma clenched her fists. "They're spreading lies." I put a hand on her shoulder. "Let them talk. The truth's coming." Thursday morning, digging deeper. At sunrise, Sarah called me from her office. "I stayed up half the night digging through county filings," she said. "Jake, it's worse than we thought. Karen's been running a shadow fund, collecting fake HOA violation fees and pocketing them. At least 5 other residents paid her thousands. I could hear her flipping through papers. She's been altering meeting minutes, forging votes, and extending HOA authority illegally. That auction isn't just fraudulent, it's criminal." I felt a surge of adrenaline. "Can we stop it?" "Oh, we'll stop it," Sarah said. "But we're not just stopping the auction. We're going to expose her." She'd already filed an emergency injunction in county court, requesting a temporary restraining order against the HOA. If the judge approved it, any sale or auction attempt would be immediately illegal. But Karen wasn't slowing down. That same morning, a letter was taped to my gate. Final notice. Property access restricted to HOA officials until auction concludes. Trespassing will result in immediate arrest. No signature. Just the HOA letterhead. It felt like a declaration of war. Thursday night. The press arrives. By nightfall, Channel 9's news van rolled up the driveway. Reporter Sarah Kim stepped out, microphone in hand. "Mr. Morrison," she said, "our newsroom's been flooded with calls about your story. Do you have proof the HOA's actions are fraudulent?" I nodded. "You'll have all of it by tomorrow morning." We filmed an interview right there in front of the old barn, the mountains glowing gold behind us. I told her everything: the forged survey, the phony covenant, the harassment, the intimidation. When the segment aired that evening, it hit harder than anyone expected. Colorado rancher fights HOA land seizure. Legal experts call it fraud. The phone started ringing nonstop. Journalists, lawyers, activists, even a few politicians wanting details. But the biggest shock came from inside the HOA itself. Friday morning, cracks in the armor. Just after sunrise, I found an envelope taped to my front door. Inside was a short note written in neat cursive. "Jake, I can't stay silent anymore. You're right. What Karen's doing is illegal. Patricia." Enclosed were photocopies of internal HOA emails showing Karen instructing board members to fast-track the auction before legal interference could gain traction. Another message ordered them to delete records from their shared drive. I forwarded everything to Sarah. Within the hour, she'd submitted it as evidence in her injunction filing. By noon, word spread that 2 HOA board members, Marcus Chen and Patricia Vance, had resigned. That afternoon, Karen stormed up my driveway with 2 private security guards in tow. She looked pale, her polished demeanor cracking. "Mr. Morrison," she snapped, "you're inciting public unrest and interfering with a lawful process. If you don't vacate this property by tomorrow morning, we will remove you." I stood my ground. "You can't remove me from land you don't own." "You'll regret this," she hissed, turning sharply toward her SUV. Emma stood beside me, recording everything on her phone. "Smile for the camera, Karen." Friday evening, the storm builds. Sarah called again that evening. "Jake, the judge is reviewing our injunction tonight, but I need you to be ready for whatever happens at dawn. They might try to hold the auction before the order is finalized." We spent the night preparing. I printed signs: private property, legal dispute pending, entry prohibited. Bill Hendricks parked his pickup by the front gate, shotgun locked behind the seat, not for violence but for message. "Jake," he said, "your granddad fought for this land. I'm not letting them take it without a fight." At 4 a.m., headlights appeared on the distant road. The auction company. Saturday morning. The showdown. By sunrise, at least 30 cars lined the road. Curious neighbors, bidders, reporters, and Karen, standing tall behind her rented podium like she was Queen of Colorado. 2 uniformed guards blocked the entrance to my driveway. "Property access is restricted," one said. "Not to me," I replied. flashing my deed and Sarah's injunction filing. At 7:02 a.m., Sarah's voice came through my phone speaker. Jake, the judge signed the injunction. The auction is legally suspended. I smiled for the first time in days. I walked toward the crowd, document in hand. Attention, everyone. This auction is illegal. I have a signed court order halting all actions by the Maplewood Heights HOA. Karen froze, her microphone squealing feedback as murmurs rippled through the crowd. Show me proof, she demanded. I held the injunction high. Signed by Judge Parker, 6:48 a.m. today. Any attempt to proceed is criminal contempt of court. Several bidders immediately stepped back. One turned and left without another word. Tommy's camera was streaming live, broadcasting everything to thousands. Karen's face went pale. You'll regret this, Jake. You can't fight the law. I'm not fighting it, I said. I'm using it. Moments later, 2 sheriff's cruisers pulled up. Deputy Santos stepped out, flanked by another deputy. Ms. Whitfield, she said calmly, I have a copy of this injunction. The auction is hereby suspended pending investigation. Karen's voice trembled. That can't be right. Santos interrupted. You and your associates are under investigation for forgery and fraud. I suggest you cooperate. The crowd erupted into whispers. Cameras clicked. Karen's composure crumbled completely. Do you have any idea who I am? She snapped. Yes, Santos said flatly, and so does the district attorney. The fallout. By afternoon, the news was everywhere. HOA president under investigation for forgery, fraud, and attempted land seizure. The forged survey, the fake extension, the harassment, it was all over the front page. The sheriff's office seized HOA records for forensic analysis. Within days, investigators confirmed signature forgeries and fake bank transfers tied to Karen's personal accounts. Dr. Stanton and Jennifer Walsh lawyered up immediately, claiming they'd been misled. But emails proved they'd helped forge votes and pressure other residents to pay false fines. By the end of the week, Karen Whitfield was arrested on charges of fraud, identity theft, and attempted unlawful property transfer. 1 month later, a legacy restored. When the dust finally settled, Sarah Chin stood beside me at the county courthouse steps, holding the final court order in her hand. The Morrison Ranch, she read aloud, is hereby confirmed as independent sovereign property, free from all HOA covenants or encumbrances. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. Emma hugged me tight. We did it, Dad. No, I said softly. Your grandpa did. He built this place so no one could ever take it from us. The story went national. News outlets across America picked it up as a symbol of ordinary people fighting back against corruption and greed. Support poured in. Letters, donations, and messages from other families facing similar abuse. Bill leaned against his truck, smiling. You know, Jake, your old man would have been proud. I nodded, looking out over the pastures glowing in the evening light. The cattle grazed peacefully, the cedar fence standing strong, just as it had for nearly 60 years. In the distance, the half-finished subdivision of Maplewood Heights sat quiet. For sale signs dotted empty lots. Without Karen, the HOA collapsed under its own weight. Emma posted one last video to Tommy's channel, a thank you to everyone who'd supported us. It hit 1 million views in 3 days. This isn't just about one ranch, she said. It's about standing your ground when the world tries to take what's yours. As the sun dipped below the Rockies, I placed my father's old hat on the fence post, the same one he and Grandpa used to lean against after long days working cattle.